Live visuals now coming from the Attari-Wagah border. We are expecting Wing Commander Abhinandan anytime now, but we have, of course, there's been massive delays here. There were initially reports that he would cross over anytime between 3 to 4 p.m. That hasn't happened. We don't know what the holdup has been. Our correspondent at Wagah has been informing us that there was a medical checkup that had delayed coming over to this side slightly. There was also, of course, the immigration that he had to go through. But officials of the Indian High Commission in Pakistan are accompanying him. There must have been tight security during the movement of this convoy, which is carrying Wing Commander Abhinandan from Pakistan to India. Remember, the Indian side had this morning asked for him to be airlifted to the Indian side. The Pakistani side did not agree with that, saying that was not possible, that he would have to go through the Attari-Wagah border. My colleague also indicating that possibly was because of airspace restrictions in Pakistan. The airspace, remember, has been shut over Pakistan for the last 2 or more days. But Captain Abhinandan, of course, nonetheless a hero for us here in India. This is a man who took down an F-16 with a MiG-21 Bison aircraft, and in that combat air tussle over Nowshera. This, of course, happened just 2 days ago. Remember, the pilot, of course, was. This happened after the F-16s, of course, had come over to the Indian side and were trying to hit military installations and an oil depot as well. And Ambassador Arun Singh continues to be with us, as does Air Marshal Kukreja and Squadron Leader Mitru, who are also with us here in the studio. And Ambassador Arun Singh, what do you think is exactly happening right now? You know, there's been a lot of delay. There are many things that are being speculated, but we've been awaiting his arrival for a long time. But of course, what do you think exactly is happening? Because we don't know what the communication has been, but there's been a lot of delays.
In these things, inevitably, there are delays. There are medical processes that have to be carried out. There are other processes. There are consular processes. The process of our officials first getting access to him and having a conversation, and other aspects of verification, the documentation of the handing over, the documentation of crossing over. So these things take time, and that's inevitable. One just has to be patient and see how it plays out. But that having been said, I just wanted to comment on two other aspects that you had raised earlier. One about Pakistan not allowing a plane from India to go across. And of course, partly the airspace is closed, but they can always work out permissions. But Pakistan always has had difficulty about an Indian Air Force plane going and landing in their country. So they have certain sensitivities related to that, and one needs to factor that in, especially at a time when the situation is a little tense. And the other aspect I wanted to mention was about the F-16. And Pakistan is clearly trying to deny that any F-16 was used, because their use of the F-16 against India in this context would be a violation of the end user agreement they would have entered into with the United States. Because whenever the US supplies any defense equipment, it gets into an end user agreement, and at that time the US had publicly indicated that these equipment were being given to Pakistan for counter-terrorism operations, especially in the Afghan context. Therefore, Pakistan's use of this against India on the Indian side at this stage would be a violation of the end-user agreement that they would have entered into with the US. And that's something that the US administration would have to deal with and respond to. And that is something that will complicate subsequently any US equipment being supplied to Pakistan, because questions would be raised about Pakistan's reliability of the commitment it makes. And it is as a result of all this and the sort of growing negative sentiment in the US about Pakistan, that in February 2016, when the then US administration under President Obama had decided to authorize a fresh batch of F-16 to be supplied to Pakistan, then at that stage, the Indian embassy, the Indian government had strongly done advocacy within the US, including in the US Congress, against that supply. And the US Congress had blocked the decision of the US administration to supply any F-16 to Pakistan. Supplies of F-16s in 2016 have been blocked. So I think that again is an important aspect to keep in mind, and the growing sort of negative attitude towards Pakistan in the international context, including in the UN, that we would need to leverage as we go ahead. And using this kind of effort, I think India should be able subsequently to block any significant supplies from the US to Pakistan. The challenge, of course, would be China, because for its own reasons, China wants to build further Pakistan's dependency on itself, and it is doing the China-Pakistan economic corridor. It is also trying to build up Gwadar, develop Gwadar potentially as a naval facility. So for all its reasons, and partly as a way to keep India challenged through Pakistan, China will certainly want to maintain its linkage with Pakistan, even though in the present context, it did not really come down on the side of Pakistan and took a more balanced view and essentially called for de-escalation rather than supporting Pakistan at a time when India took counter-terrorism action on February 26.
Right. In fact, I just like to bring my viewers up to speed that there have been massive ceasefire violations by Pakistan along the line of control in Mendhar, in Balakot, in the Krishna Ghati sectors today as well. There were the same ceasefire violations yesterday as well. We're also hearing that there's been heavy firing at the LOC and it's been constantly happening. So, of course, this continues even after what Imran Khan had to say yesterday. But before I come to you, gentlemen, Ambassador Singh, I just want to highlight one thing about what was said about Masood Azhar now. The Pakistani foreign minister had to say earlier today to CNN's Christiana Amanpour, where he basically essentially accepted that Masood Azhar was in Pakistan. He was unwell. He was unwell to the extent that he couldn't move. He was, he was inside his home all the time. When asked why is it that Masood Azhar is not being sent or handed over to the Indian authorities, he said we need credible evidence against Masood Azhar. Now, what sort of credible evidence does he need against a terrorist who is fairly known to have carried out multiple attacks in India?
So none of the comments that the Pakistan foreign minister made have any credibility, because the fact that Masood Azhar is in Pakistan is widely known. He's not living there in secret. He's not hiding. He does public events. He releases audio tapes. And even if he may be sick, that doesn't prevent him from being in touch with those who are carrying out terrorist attacks and giving them instructions. Because in the past, even the leaders of terrorist organizations that have been in jail have operated from jail and continued to give out instructions, as the mastermind of the 26/11 attack in 2008. Luckily, even though he was kept in prison for a while, it was known that from inside the prison, he was continuing his activities. Therefore, whether he's well, not well, doesn't imply anything. And even now, he's been releasing tapes from time to time.
Yeah.
And Pakistan saying that it cannot take action unless credible evidence is given. Yes. That's really a sort of a fig leaf that they generate each time. Because even after the 26/11 attack,
yes,
when it was known clearly that Lashkar-e-Toiba was behind it, there were handlers in Pakistan, that 10 people from Pakistan had come across to do these attacks. Pakistan initially went through the charade of cooperating, asked for evidence, and after that the court process dried up, because after a while the lawyers would change, the judges would change, lawyers would be scared to take the process forward, and the Pakistani agencies did not generate any evidence, because a lot of the planning and the conspiracy had taken place in Pakistan.
Right.
This is just a way, just a fig leaf to say, give us evidence, then we will act. This really means nothing.
Right.
That's a game they will play, and we have to know that. But our effort has to be to use the current heightened concern internationally to continue to generate pressure on Pakistan and not let up on that. But that has to be.
Right. Squadron Leader Mithru and Air Marshal Kukreja, now the three developments that have happened in the last couple of minutes. One is, of course, that massive ceasefire violation we are hearing in several sectors. There's been heavy firing. We know that the DG ISPR has tweeted essentially saying that he has spoken to various countries. The army has spoken to various countries of the UK, Australia, and ambassadors of US, UK, China, to say basically that Pakistan will respond to any aggression in self-defense. And also, we're still waiting for him to come back. It's now become almost dark now. How would you respond to all of this?
Okay, Bhairavi, the thing is, first of all, ceasefire violations have been going on for a few days. But these ceasefire violations that you're just mentioning today's are one has to view them in the background of Imran Khan's statement that we want peace. If he wants peace, then why is he escalating?
Yeah, heavy firing on the
heavy firing. Why is he escalating? And I'm quite sure in my mind that the heavy firing at this time of the day, where the darkness is setting in, and later, of course, like last night also, it carried on till late in the night or early hours of the morning. The undercover of darkness, they just may be trying to push in more of these insurgents.
Yes.
Terrorists coming in, either belonging to JEM or LET or any other abbreviation that you may have. But there must be this, and our forces, again, I'm quite sure in my mind, our forces would be very, very alert on this aspect. As far as the response briefing the foreign ambassadors in Pakistan, well, they, I think, are just copying us.
Yeah.
We briefed the ambassadors yesterday. We briefed the ambassadors even 2 days last week, just after Pulwama.
Yes.
That this is what has happened. Now we have given them, we've also indicated to the ambassadors that a complete dossier has been handed over to Pakistan Deputy High Commissioner. So where is the question of, first of all, two things that I would like to highlight. Where is the question of the giving actionable or credible evidence against the terrorist? He is a self-confessed terrorist on the Pulwama attack.
Yes.
And if I could use the military term, he is a bhagoda from the Indian justice system. He was exchanged as in lieu of the hostages on the 814 hijack. So he is an absconder.
Yeah, fair enough. We've got your point. Squadron Leader Mithru, do you agree with all of this? The fact that, we're also hearing about another encounter in Kupwara, there's fresh firing, there's been ceasefire violations, multiple ceasefire violations in the last couple of hours. What do you make of it?
I agree, absolutely, undoubtedly. Here, we must very noticeably bring it out that in spite of Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan making peaceful gestures, I would only use the word gestures. In spite of all that, under such a tense situation, if still ceasefire violations are going on, and if still they are bent upon attacking Indian civilians and the military people, is the world also taking notice of all this? Today, we know that technology, satellite technology is so advanced that even a person moving on the earth can be traced. I am sure India should tell the world authorities who do have these tracker satellites to bring it out. Let them see whether Pakistan is doing these violations or no. They have always been doing it. As far as these rogue terrorists are concerned, they have helped Pakistan in being declared a rogue country. It is not a terrorist state, it is now a rogue state. The world should recognize Pakistan as a rogue state, and undoubtedly we must keep the pressure on for handing over, returning the three big culprits, Masood Azhar, Hafiz Saeed and Dawood Ibrahim.
Okay. All right. Well, Ambassador Arun Singh, now when we talk about the perception battle, you know, well, many in Pakistan, including the Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan, thinks that they've, in a sense, won the perception battle, that Imran Khan, you know, came on national television and said that I'm ready to have a telephonic conversation, I'm ready to talk terror, I'm ready to hand over Wing Commander Abhinandan. He also said that it would be a big miscalculation for either side if we were to have a war. I mean, what do you make of it? The fact that, do you think that at any level they have won the perception battle, or is that just fiction?
I don't think they won the perception battle, because they would have factored in that when India took the action on 26 February, they did not get any support. And no country in the world criticized India for the action, but accepted the legitimacy of India's action. Now, that would have been a very strong message to Pakistan, that internationally, therefore, they are seen as a problem country in terms of the support they provide to terrorism and in terms of their involvement with terrorist groups. And so that message they would have absorbed. Secondly, they found that friends of theirs, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and even China, did not come down fully on the side of Pakistan. And Saudi Arabia and UAE are now building a strong relationship for India. India has been invited as guest of honor at the OIC. So given all that, and given the current situation, they would certainly have felt that it is in their interest to show themselves as being, in a sense, reasonable in terms of the conflict situation that is developing, aside from the issue related to terrorism. And again, one has to factor in that the way the international sentiment normally develops. In the beginning, there has been tremendous support for India for the action it took, but very soon everybody would start talking essentially about de-escalation. So to some extent, that will be the next phase of the struggle in terms of what is the peg at which you de-escalate. If you de-escalate, what is the assurance that you have to get for longer term action? And I think that is the game that has to be played now. And whatever steps India takes, it has to couple it with getting support from the US, UK, France, and the other countries to continue to generate pressure on Pakistan on the subject of terrorism. And Pakistan having to avoid being present at the OIC meeting would have been very, very painful for them in today's context. And that's a perception that they need to also factor in, that a difficult moment like this, even though they lobbied with the UAE to keep India away, they were compelled to stay away from the OIC, an organization where they feel they have a leading role to play. So these are some of the messages that they need to absorb. So I don't think they really won the perception battle of any kind. They would have understood that the international perception of their involvement in terrorism is something that they have to deal with. And of course, given the difficult situation they are in, they're now trying to present a reasonable face in terms of efforts towards de-escalation. And that's something that, yes, we will certainly have to factor in as next steps are evolved.
Right, and I just want to also update our viewers that, well, 3 security personnel have been killed in an encounter in Kupwara, in which one civilian has also been killed. That operation still continuing in Jammu and Kashmir. These are difficult times for the military in Jammu and Kashmir. Particularly, we know that there's been heavy firing at the LOC. There's been ceasefire violations in Mendhar and Krishna Ghati sector as well. Even as the visuals on your screens are of the Attari-Wagah Border, where we are still awaiting well, the arrival of Wing Commander Abhinandan, who is likely to come back home anytime now. It has been delayed by several hours. Abhinandan was likely to come back around 3 to 4 p.m. this afternoon. But there have been a series of delays because of official reasons. There's been an immigration check that he has to go through, and also the fact that there's been a medical checkup. High-level team from the Indian High Commission is accompanying him on this side of the border. He will be received by members of the Indian Air Force. He will be whisked away and will obviously be debriefed, and will also have a medical checkup on this side as well. We also expect the Vice Air Marshal to have a short statement ready for the press. There will not be any Q&A, but we know that there will be a press statement nonetheless from the Vice Air Marshal as well. And going back to that point, Air Marshal Kukreja, that this is the first time since 1971 that we have sort of, in a sense, had an air combat engagement with Pakistan in peacetime, as it were. Also, the element of surprise was so much there. And, Ambassador Singh, and you were talking earlier about, that we have to accept that proxy wars will continue from Pakistan. And the answer for that to many would be that why not, then continue with your asymmetrical war with Pakistan? Because, hit them where it hurts them. Because if they are going to push us to a wall with proxy wars, why not do the same?
Well, we will not get pushed first of all.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we have, as a country, we have enough resilience to hold out the pressures that Pakistan wants
to create.
But we can do that. Now, what I would like to mention out here and use a little stronger word, we say that we must marginalize Pakistan in the international community. We must isolate. I think the time has come. I would use a stronger word. We must ostracize Pakistan in the international community. And that would take a lot of effort from our side in terms of economic pressures and diplomatic pressures. Make sure that the countries do take action. You see, it is all very well for the countries to say, we support you. But it is that the country must, those countries which say that we support you, should not be just merely in words. There has to be some concrete action to be taken by those countries if they support us, if they are friendly towards us, and they understand Pakistan's status as a terror nation. So that we must push and push it hard. That is there. It's then and only then that Pakistan, when it is ostracized, when it is pushed right against the wall with no avenue for escape, that India would have succeeded in its efforts. And of course, in terms of getting the terrorists back, to a certain extent, it is wishful thinking from our part. Pakistan will never, ever send them back.
Yeah.
But we can always ask them that if...
we can always hold them accountable to it.
Yeah, accountable, yes. But on a slightly lighter note, if Masood Azhar is unwell and he's... immobilized, and we know that he is being treated in a military hospital there.
Yeah.
And if they can't cure him and they can't get him out... then he can always come to India for treatment. There's so many Pakistanis who keep coming to India.
Absolutely. Well, Squadron Leader Mithru, just going back and focusing on Wing Commander Abhinandan now, where he had an air duel with one of the F-16s, and unfortunately for us, he fell on the other side. What sort of injuries would that impact have? And of course, we know that he was roughed up as well on the Pakistani side, but he obviously showed a lot of grit and courage when we saw that video of him emerging from Pakistan.
You see, one thing I would like to tell the people through you is that an ejection seat, when it is being operated to evacuate a pilot in emergency from an aircraft, it's like a cannon. It is a cannon. It is fired with bullets. That is how the pilot gets thrown out of the aeroplane to safety. Now, when that happens, it is a very, very severe impact on a body which is stationary, sitting in an aeroplane, and suddenly the gun fires to throw him out. The first and the main injury that happens to any or to most of the fighter pilots is the back gets compressed, the backbone gets compressed. That is the major injury which any fighter pilot ejecting from an aircraft in emergency suffers. Besides, there are normally not much records of any other injury, except that if you might hit your hand somewhere, maybe your oxygen mask while getting dislodged can hit your nose or something. Such injuries do happen, but they are very minor. The major injury which happens is to the backbone.
Right.
If at all, Abhinandan may have suffered that, we don't know as yet, because he was standing while he was being interrogated in Pakistan. Now, why is Pakistan delaying him is because probably they want to take shelter of darkness to show that he is not injured or to hide his injuries, which is not very possible because Wagah in Attari particularly, is very well lit up, and you can see if there is any injury to anybody.
Right, and obviously in Pakistan he would have been questioned on a series of things, and therefore the debrief will also happen, in due course on the Indian side as well.
Yes, whatever has happened over there, if you are talking of the Indian side, after the after the immigration acceptance and medical has happened through the International Red Cross Society, when the Indian government takes over his person after coming from Pakistan, he will go through the security clearance. It is a normal security clearance, it's not very harsh, but we must know what has happened to him, how he was treated there, whether he was ill-treated, was first degree, second degree, third degree, what was used on him, we must know that. And then, of course, the Air Force is going to accept him and, if required, maybe take him to the hospital for treatment.
Absolutely. Wing Commander Abhinandan, we are still awaiting him coming back. The whole nation is waiting for him to arrive back, and his bravery and grit was seen on that video when we saw it being shot in Pakistan as well. Squadron Leader Krishna Mitru, Air Marshal Kulkarni, and also Ambassador Singh, thanks very much indeed for joining us.